Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're listening, and welcome back to another episode of the Scarpy Spurs Talk podcast. Today, I'm joined by, three fabulous guests. Two of them are with me now. Starting with Travis. Absolutely love the hashtag. Talk me through the reasons behind the hashtag and how you're doing.
Good evening, all. How are we doing?
All good, thank you. Yourself?
All good, yeah, really well, thank you. It's good to be back on the show as always. Love being part of the show. Really does make my evening a lot more nicer. So, yeah, the reason behind the hashtag is obviously we've got Big Ange, and obviously he's got the triple of getting Manager of the Month. Mikel Arteta, on the other hand, obviously he's too busy jumping up and down the touchline.
Travis, for people who can't see it listening on the podcast platform, can you tell us what the hashtag says?
It's hashtag Mikel Arteta cries like a baby.
There you go. Absolutely love it. We're glad to hear you well, Travis. Apologies on the late call up. We had someone drop out last minute. Nige, how you doing?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me on, Harry, and hello to Travis as well. Looking forward to talking all things Tottenham.
Oh, I can't wait to get into it. So thank you very much. Wynnie as well, fellow co-host and partner in podcast, will be joining later to discuss the Wolves game, etc. Big up to Barney, who's listening live on YouTube already. So yeah, quickly before we crack into it, if you are new to the channel, don't forget to smash the subscribe button. It is free to do so and it helps the channel and podcast grow. If you are listening on any podcast platform, don't forget to give us a follow and 5-star review. That'd be massively appreciated. Before we crack into it, though, and get into the fun stuff, quick sponsorship message from our partner, Secure VPN, because now while we love diving into the action on the pitch, especially when Spurs win, today we're stepping off the pitch for a second to talk about a game changer in online security, which is our new partner, Secure VPN. You guys know how critical it is to stay safe online these days in 2023, especially when you're streaming matches, getting them into online forums, or even doing a bit of sports betting. That's why we partnered with Secure VPN, a long-term partnership for the ultimate money-saving tool for cyber safety. You wouldn't play football without shin pads, right? Or your football boots. Well, Secure VPN is like the ultimate defense for your online life. Let's just say Secure VPN lets you navigate the online world with the same confidence as James Maddison when he's fit on the ball. Stick around to find out how you can get exclusive discounts only for our dedicated viewers. So without further ado, that is the sponsorship message. Now into the fun stuff, talking Tottenham. So Travis, I'm going to come to you first. So I'll know your thoughts on the lineup before the game, because we all knew injuries, suspension problems, a lot went wrong in that Chelsea game. Was there any surprises in there for you? I'm not going to go through every single one change, because probably more changes than there wasn't there, if you know what I mean. So talk to me, about that team.
I think you know what I'm about to say, Harry. Eric Dyer. Obviously, a huge concern for me. But do you know what? The last two games that he's played, obviously, I know I'm not talking about the Chelsea game, but he has stepped up. But I'm not going to hold my breath. If he is going to be relied on by Ange, then he really needs to pull his socks up and start being the good defender that I know deep down that he can be. But I think losing, obviously, Romero, our main centre-half, and Mickey van der Ven, obviously, when Romero was sent off and van der Ven went off injured, that just is just a massive concern for all of us Tottenham fans, because obviously Romero has been good ever since he started at the club, but Mickey van der Ven has really lit the place up. What a defender. So he's going to be missed massively.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned Eric Dyer there, Travis. I mean, we all know your thoughts on Eric Dyer. So would you have started him in that game? If not, who would you start instead? Because we had Phillips and Dorrington obviously on the bench.
Well, as a centre-back, we haven't really got much choice, really, apart from Eric Dyer. So I can't really comment on that. Obviously, the two young lads that are on the bench, it's good to see that Andrew's obviously bringing them through the ranks and wants to obviously give them a chance. Obviously, with the guy we bought from Ashley Phillips as well. But again, he's young. So obviously, he's got to start off properly. But again, I probably would have given him a chance in the Wolves game. Obviously, it being Wolves, obviously they're not an informed club at the moment. So yeah, I would have liked to see Ashley Phillips, but Eric Dyer being the more experienced one, that's obviously why Ange chose him. But yeah, as I've said for a long time, our defence has been a concern for me for a long time, because we haven't got the same quality to come on the pitch to what's coming off the pitch.
Yeah, no, it's very true. Squad depth is really important for me. So it should be urgently addressed in January. Nige, first time on the show, give me your thoughts on that lineup. Was there any surprises in there, or anything you would have done differently?
To be honest, I think that was probably always going to be the team he could pick. Yeah, it's always disappointing to see Dyer and Davis in the side again. But again, what choice did he have? He could have played the youngsters, but then, if we go and lose 5, then Andrew's going to get the blame for that as well. So I think he picked the side he could. The worry for me is if Dyer or Davis get injured, then we really are scraping the barrel. But yeah, no surprises for me. Disappointing to see Højbjerg play. I would have preferred Bentancur, but maybe he's not 100% fit yet. So yeah, it was what it was.
Okay, thank you very much, Nige. And also, before I move on, Nige, just coming back to you, would you put more trust in the youth team, for example, Phillips, Dorrington, Donnelly, and in that Wolves game if you were Ange?
Probably not, to be honest, for me. Just because, like I say, if we had have gone with the youngsters and lost 4 or 5-0, which we probably wouldn't have done, but you never know. If we did, then everyone would be saying Ange got it wrong. And imagine the confidence that the youngsters could have got from that. It wouldn't have been good. I would have maybe played one, but yeah, all 3 probably not.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Yeah, that's what lots of people said. You don't want to take that risk in an important game. Travis, coming to you, I want to know your thoughts. If you were Ange, obviously I use Phillips as an example. Do you think generally with this injury crisis, with suspensions we've got, let's say focus on the Aston Villa game, should there be more trust in youth? These players that everyone's talking about in the youth academy, Jamie Donnelly, for example, hits the headlines of the Spurs social media accounts every week for the academy. Should he be involved at least in the squad and perhaps get some minutes with our current injury crisis?
Yeah, I think obviously they should be involved in the squads. I think we are very early in the season at the moment, and obviously we've all got high expectation, obviously where we're going to finish in the league. But that could obviously change now with obviously the Romero obviously getting a 3-match ban, Bissouma being injured or suspended or whatever. I can't remember what he is now, suspended. And obviously Van der Ven being a long-term injury. I think Ange is the sort of man who will give the youth a go, just because of the type of man Ange Postecoglou is. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I mean, the last manager that gave youth a chance was Poch. Other than Mourinho and Conte, he never really gave him a chance. Obviously, I don't think it's fair to comment until we actually see them playing a Premier League match. I'd give Ashley Phillips 100% a chance because of the size of the lad. He's 6'3", 6'4", So yeah, but again, as I say, I can't really comment on who we should pick for the games when it comes to the defence. Because obviously how far we are into the season at the moment. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I mean, I without sounding biased, I love Ange's mentality and his whole demean towards the club. He said if we went down to 5 players against Chelsea, we would have given it a good go. If that was Mourinho or Conte, they would have been screaming, crying. So yeah, he deserves every bit of credit he gets. And what else can he do? With obviously the injuries and the suspensions, what else has he got to play with? Nothing. He's been like that for years. And so many managers have said it throughout the years that we will struggle in our back four if we get injuries.
Yeah, it's very true. I think we've got really strong starting 11, but that squad depth for me just isn't there at this moment in time. Before we move on, the lineup against Wolves that was put out by Postecoglou, for people who didn't know, was Vicario, Porro, Emerson, Davis, and Dyer making up the defence. Sarr, Bissouma, and Højbjerg, the midfield 3, and Johnson, Son, and Kulusevski up top. Before we actually focus on the Wolves game, I want to talk about 2 players that have been really important to our start. and Ange Postecoglou, sadly out into the new year, and that is Maddison and Mickey van der Ven. Nige, I'm going to come to you. Firstly, I'm going to ask the difficult question. Who is more important to this team? Who we're going to miss more? And also talk to me how excellent both of them have been so far this season.
For me, Maddison is 100% the player we're going to miss the most. We just lack so much creativity without him in the team. I just think it affects the whole team when Maddison doesn't play. For me, with Sonny up front, it's just not the same without Maddison now. Sonny likes to get onto the last man, the little balls in between. Without Maddison there, he's coming back. He's back to goal. His first touch is bad. He's not getting the balls in. And because he's not a tall striker and doesn't score with his head a lot, there's no good crossing the ball to him. So I just think Sonny's wasted without Maddison now. So for me, Maddison, 100% the player we're going to miss the most. But Van der Ven is just amazing. I'd be the first to admit I wanted Tapsoba in the summer. I wasn't overly fussed with Van der Ven, but wow, what a signing. He is just, he's Vertonghen 0.2, isn't he? Brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's been absolutely excellent. And welcoming on to the podcast, fellow co-host from Part Lane Podcast, Wynnie. How you doing?
I'm good, mate. Apologies for being slightly late, but better late than never, I suppose, is what they say, isn't it?
Absolutely, better late than never. So just to kind of bring you onto this, because I was kind of asking Nige this, who's we're going to miss more out of Van der Ven and Maddison, because they've both been so important to the way we've been playing, right?
Yeah. If I don't want to be one of these little fence sitters, but I think they're equally as important as each other. I think for our system, they both have a pivotal role. And I think obviously Van der Ven, he will make those recovery tackles. He's got the ability to travel with the ball if he needs. He can also pass in between the lines. It's usually like Van der Ven to Maddison seems to be probably, it's probably impossible to check the stats, but that's probably one of the most common passes you'll probably find in Tottenham Hotspur games. It'll be that Van der Ven through the lines into Maddison, and then he turns and goes that way. So I think, I'm going to be a bit offensive and think we're going to miss them both just as much. I don't think I could.
Yeah.
We did, we lacked creativity massively against Wolves, and I think that was one of our biggest problems. So, if I had to steer towards someone, I probably would say Maddison, but I think they're both just as important as each other, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. Wishing them both a speedy recovery, because we need them if we're going to maximise this season. Travis, so coming to you, again, the difficult question, Maddison or Van der Ven we're going to miss more, and just talk them through their season so far and how important they've been.
I just want to say hi to Wynnie. Hello, mate.
Nice to meet you, mate. And you, mate.
Yeah, I'll go with what Wynnie said. They're equally as important as each other with their own individual roles. But Maddison is the string within that midfield. I know we have got good midfielders now. See, i.e. Bentancur. I know Kulusevski plays out the wing, but Maddison is the Christian Eriksen we've needed for years, and we got him for the same reason we got Christian Eriksen. So he's going to be missed more than any player. I mean, we miss them all, but any player at this moment in time, because of what he does for our strikers and just the team in general. Mickey van der Ven, again with what Nige said, what a player! He's the Jan Vertonghen. Him and Romero, the Jan Vertonghen and Toby Alderweireld that we had a couple of seasons ago. So, but yeah, Maddison is going to be missed like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah, absolutely. Two really, really important players. Hopefully we can get them back as soon as possible. But Nige, it was kind of a really good start, almost too good to be true, which it turned out to be. Through the third minute, Brendan Johnson get his first goal in a Spurs shirt. Assist by Pedro Porro. Like I said, perfect start. And obviously the celebration, the darts in tribute to Maddison. So what do you make of our start and that, kind of tribute, if you like, towards Maddison? Does it show how important he is to these bunch of players?
Yeah, I actually thought we started really well. I think first 15, I think we're much a better side. I think we're passing the ball well. There's good movement. And yeah, when the first goal went in, I must admit, I thought this is going to be a nice day at the office. We just looked really good. And for some reason, whatever happened after 15 minutes, I don't know. But yeah, I think it was a nice celebration just to let Madders know that they were thinking of him. But it's just a pity it didn't end in a win.
Yeah, absolutely. The win's what we wanted, but good start. We'll get on to why we didn't push on, etc. But Wynnie, I know we briefly touched on it on the podcast yesterday, but what do you make of our start?
Yeah, it was Ange ball at its finest. You know, we were so concerned how we would play, missing so many key players, but it seems as though we were still able to do what we set out to do, and you know what we've seen in the past 10 games is the quick, fast-flowing football. You know, a lovely little flick from Kulusevski. But yeah, so you know, we started how I didn't think we would start, if I'm completely honest, because I thought we would severely lack any kind of fluidity going forward, but we didn't show that at all. And you know, hopefully in future games with people missing that we're still going to miss, we can still start games like that.
Yeah, let's hope so. It's just a shame we didn't push on, but like I said, we will get onto that towards the end of the show. Well, actually, not long at all. But Travis, so basically, towards the end of the first half, in the 49th minute to be exact, with these new added on-time rules, ridiculous, isn't it? Basuma got a booking, which means he gets that suspension, those 5 yellow cards, so he does miss the Aston Villa game. So, question for you: was it really coming for Basuma? And if it's possible, is this a good time to pick up the yellow card, considering he'll be back for Manchester City, be back for Newcastle, and be back for the West Ham game?
With the way our squad is now, with injuries and suspensions, it is completely the wrong time to pick up a suspension, bearing in mind how badly affected our midfield is now. It's just another top quality player we're now going to miss. It's another knife to the coffin.
Yeah, no, fair enough. We certainly don't need that at the moment. Wynnie, give me your thoughts. On Basuma's suspension, a yellow card, if you like. Is it idiotic? Is it, I don't know? Some may say sensible in terms of the timing. So, was it always coming for you? Just a matter of time?
Yeah, I think unfortunately with Basuma, we almost have to expect it, because the role he plays for Tottenham Hotspur is to break up play, make tactical fouls, and it's just if you look at all of his bookings, they are for that. There was a silly booking against Luton, but look, that's his role. We have to expect it, and I'm afraid to say, mate, there's going to be a fair few more coming. And look, hopefully we won't miss him too much, but look, we probably will. But like I say, all I will say, mate, is be prepared, because his role in this team is to break up play and make tactical fouls, and that's exactly what he's done. And I don't think Andrew want him to stop.
No, fair enough. Absolutely. I'm assuming Bentancur will come in for that Aston Villa game. Obviously, that 2 weeks really helps him recover from the ACL. Only thing that worries me is he's been called up for the Uruguayan squad during this international break, whereas I think personally the club should have stopped that and continued his recovery with Spurs, knowing that Basuma's suspended. But I mean, players like to play for their country. Sometimes it's hard to intervene, if you like. But Nige, talk to me about Basuma's suspension. Do you think he's been playing as well with 4 yellow cards, and do you think this was kind of coming eventually?
I've got to be honest, I think Basuma's been really average over the last ever since the Luton game when he got sent off, to be honest. I don't think he's been the same player. And I'm not sure, there used to be a time when he'd get the ball off the defence and he'd either give it back and run around the corner and get it back again and drive forward, or he'd drop his shoulder, beat a couple of men and then just drive with the ball. And I just feel the last couple of games, it's just very conservative, just pass the ball sideways back. And I don't know whether that's because he's not got the confidence in the defence now, that he's thinking, if I lose the ball here, I'm in trouble. And he's just taking the easy pass. But for me, or whether it's because he's got 4 bookings and didn't want to get booked again, but then the booking he got was stupid. But yeah, I do think he's been poor, but maybe this booking is good for him. He can start afresh again and start, hopefully, we'll get the Basuma back.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Thank you very much. Let's hope so. So moving on to the not so nice bit, because today could be pretty much a therapy session, because Wolves grabbed In my opinion, if they deserved the equaliser in the 91st minute through substitute Pablo Cerribo, believe it or not, I never heard of before today for the Wolves game. So that tells you everything you need to know. So Travis, what did you make of the goal? Was it poor from us? Did we switch off, or was it just a wonder strike, which it was?
Well, apart from sounding like a Tottenham reject, with the names we've gone through the years. Yeah, what a goal. What a goal. But again, I don't think that goal would have made the back of the net if we had our normal defence. I think Romero would have just wiped him straight out, because that's what Romero does. He would have just completely tank busted and wiped him out and put him in row Z. So again, but it all falls down to the game times that that players haven't been getting. Obviously, i.e. Eric Dyer, Ben Davies, they haven't had any proper minutes under their belt. So again, that's where I think we're going to struggle, and that's where we are going to let these goals that could not be goals happen.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Wynnie, coming to you next. It gets worse. Just when you think, we dropped 2 points in added time, no, we come away with nothing, because Wolves go on to grab a 97th minute winner through Mario Lemina. That name would have had plenty of times to throw from the likes of his days at Southampton, assisted by, Elisa Briba off the bench to get a goal and assist. Fantastic engaged management by Gary O'Neill, which again we get on to. Are you disappointed more than anything we couldn't hold on? Because we knew, didn't we? We both predicted that we would lose. So we knew before the game would be tough. But is it more the fact that we got to 90 minutes winning the game and we came away with nothing that's a really frustrating thing for you?
100%, yeah. It's to be so close to gaining something, because as you say, me and you both predicted a Wolves win, and that's just us being honest.
Yeah.
And I think to be so close to it, obviously I think they equalised in, they equalised in like 92nd minute, I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then obviously you're thinking, okay, so 6 minutes added on or whatever it was, we shouldn't really lose this now. But what I want to point out is, if you ever get the chance, and I'm sure you all have already, take a close look at Eric Dyer during that second goal, because if you look at Sarabia, obviously picks the ball up on the right hand side.
Yeah.
It's obvious where his pass is going to go. The way he shapes his body, the way his foot shapes up, it's only going to go inside that little diagonal into Lemina, as you say. And Eric Dyer watches it the whole way and does not move an inch. So, like I say, all I want to do is just point Eric Dyer out in that situation. He has massively let us down. He was brilliant against Chelsea, and I'm going to say that when he came on, he was brilliant. I'll give him credit where it's due, but playing a full 90 against Wolves, he was pants.
Fair enough. Travis is
10 points for Wynnie.
Travis is absolutely loving that comment. For people who don't know, someone who's not a fan of Eric Dyer in the bottom right-hand corner. He certainly will not be creating a fan page of Eric Dyer anytime soon, it's fair to say. But Nige, coming to you next. So yeah, are you disappointed more than anything that we've kind of, 90 minutes, we're coming away from 3 points to not only drop 2 points, but to drop 3 points in the end? Is it more disappointment, from you that we got that far in the game, 90 minutes winning?
Yeah, when I was watching the game, I was actually, for the first time, it got to about 90 minutes, and I thought we're going to see this out. I can't see him. I just couldn't see him scoring. And then someone said in the chat, Dyer gets the ball and just pumps it out of play. And that's just typical Dyer. And then obviously the throw in, he's out of position, they score. And I couldn't agree more with Wynnie. Totally out of position. And he should have known exactly where the pass was going for the second, but didn't. But saying that, I actually thought Dyer played well for 90 minutes. I thought just the last 7 minutes of injury time, he just typical Dyer brain farts.
Yeah. That's the problem with Eric Dyer. You see, he put in a good performance, but you have moments like that where he will let himself down. I don't know what Travis thinks of this, so I'm not even going to ask him. But I'm going to go around the houses and ask if Wolves deserve the win. I just want a simple yes or no answer. It will be in a random order. Travis, did Wolves deserve the win? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yep. Love the honesty. Nige?
No, I think we deserved a point.
Okay. Fair enough. We've got different opinions there. Wynnie?
I'll say no. I think we deserve the point out of that, to be perfectly honest with you.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, we did start the game well. Big up to everyone in the chat listening live on YouTube. There's a lot of you. I'll shout you out towards the end of the show. So, moving on, I want to talk about Ange's in-game management, which we can all agree, forget the Wolves game a minute, has been superb so far this season. The influence game and gained us points, whether it's been Richarlison on against Sheffield United when they're losing 1-0, goes and gets a goal and assist, or whether it's Manchester United where both his subs contribute to both goals. So, Wynnie, I'm going to come to you. So is there anything for you Ange could have done differently to get us over the line in terms of tactics, game management, maybe personnel? Because considering Gary O'Neill brought Sabriba on, losing 1-0 down, you could say he struck gold, you could say it's a moment of genius, but he goes and scores a goal and assist, and that turns 0 points into 3 points for Wolves. So is there anything more Ange could have done?
Personnel wise, I would have started Phillips, if I'm honest. I think he's as like to like as we get with Van der Ven being out. I know obviously he's untrusted at the moment, but you've got to trust him at some point. And like I say, like for like, he's I think as close as we're going to get to Van der Ven. Tactic wise, obviously it was very Conte-esque the way we played. Now, I don't know if that was Ange. I don't believe it was Ange setting up saying, look, we need to try and, not be as offensive or as
It's a
attacking.
mentality thing, Wynnie. Considering they're playing under Conte and Mourinho, I think it's just that mentality.
And I think that's the problem, is the players that were in there were heavily involved in the Conte and Mourinho era. And unfortunately, it's just ingrained in their head now. Obviously in training, and Ange will be setting his tactics and everything. All the drills will be based around Ange ball, but I don't think these players are going to be taking it seriously. But I don't think Ange could have done anything differently. Maybe made subs. You could maybe argue making subs a little bit earlier, but at that time we were still winning. So why would you change it? So I think it's a one-off, and as we say, I think it's a mentality of the players that were in there were from the Conte and Mourinho era, and their mentality is to sit back and try and defend a lead.
Yeah, they can't really blame them in a way, considering that is what they've been used to. I suppose it takes time, this major transition. I think generally the players have coped very well with that. Travis, coming to you next. Is there anything that Ange could have done throughout the game, so his in-game management, to perhaps get something out of the game for us, whether we go 2-1 down, whether it's before that? So is there anyone else you would have brought on or wouldn't have brought on?
Can I just say one thing before I comment? Someone's just put a comment on here about Eric Dyer, Captain Grandma. How can you scream at Eric Dyer to get up the pitch? He's like a cart horse. It would take him half hour to get from one side of the pitch to the other. Anyway, I'll leave that there. Again, with the tactics, as in who he chose for his starting 11, who else could he go with? That's all I can say. Who else did he have in the same quality?
Okay, let me ask you a slightly different question then. Would you have started the likes of Lo Celso on Bentancur to give us more creativity in the game to perhaps push on and get that second goal? Or do you think he still went with the right midfield pair of Højbjerg, Basuma and Sarr?
I would have stuck with two in the middle. I would have stuck with Bentancur and Højbjerg. Højbjerg, I know he hasn't had much game time, but I rate him extremely highly. A lot of people will probably disagree with me there, but he gives his blood for that club. He's everywhere on the pitch, and he's not scared to make a challenge. So that would have been the only change for me. He's probably just played two in the middle. Oliver Skip again. I feel for him a little bit because he hasn't been given much game time, but he could be a really good midfielder and a really good top quality midfielder if he was given the correct game time. But again, when you're playing against the likes of Bentancur, Basuma, James Maddison, you're not really going to get a look in. So it's very hard. It's probably very hard for Ange because he looks at his first starting 11 when players are fit and not suspended or injured to what he's got on the pitch. There's a huge difference, and there has been for a long time.
Yeah, no, that has been. I think lots of people agree with you when you say that. Nige, for you, what do you make of Ange's in-game management Saturday afternoon? Anything he could have done to change that scoreline?
Not really with the personnel he had. I I'm probably going to get laughed at now, but I maybe would have started with Bentancur and Bissouma as holding, and I maybe would have played Højbjerg a little bit further forward. So I think when Højbjerg goes forward, he's a really good player. I think when he sits back a bit too much for me, that's when he's not as good. So I maybe would have played Højbjerg a little bit more forward. For me, Sarr's been fantastic, but he is only 20, and I don't know. Maybe it's time to give him a rest, because I do think he has lost a little bit of form over the last couple of weeks.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. That was where a lot of conversation was, that defence and that midfield. What else could have been done? So, a little statistic for you here. We only had 6 shots compared to Wolverhampton Wanderers 17. As far as I'm concerned, that is not a statistic that Ange will want to hear anytime soon. And so, are we just really disappointed that we didn't get control of the game and really push for a second goal, Wynnie, for example? Do you think we should have pushed on for that? Would have Ange wanted us to push on for that second goal, surely?
100%. And Ange would have been pushing for it, but look, I think we all need to just sit back and just look at what we had at our disposal, and we had no creativity. If I'm completely honest, obviously I predicted a 2-0 Wolves, a 2-0 Wolves win on our pod, because I didn't expect us to create anything at all. And lo and behold, 3 minutes in or whatever it was, we're 1-0 up. So it kind of shocked me, but I just think the players we had at our disposal, we had no creativity. Ange, of course, would have wanted us to push forward and try and play Ange ball and get far, as close up the field as we could, but we just didn't have the personnel to do it. Højbjerg, as good as he is at what he does, he's not an attacking player. He's not the type of player to get the ball on the half turn and then make a progressive fast, forward pass. Bissouma, again, although he does like to venture forward, he's not that creative type player, and neither Sarr. So we were massively lacking creativity. So, and let's not forget, obviously, Sonny was way off it. For whatever reason, he's allowed a bad game every now and then, but he was off it as well. So we had too many players, off it in terms of an attacking sense. So Ange 100% would have wanted to push for a second, but I just don't think we had it in us to necessarily do that.
No, fair enough. Yeah, that's actually, if you think about it that way, then that is sensible. Like with people say the midfield 3 were too passive, too defensive. But at the same time, considering our personnel, we know that Wolves have that attacking qualities even without Pedro Neto, then perhaps that is quite sensible. I'm going to read you all some quotes, basically, the Postcog who said after the game. Got a little piece here. He said, obviously, it is disappointing, the goals going in so late, and we worked so hard up until that point. We ran out of legs at the end, but credit to Wolves. They came at us and scored a couple of goals. I cannot question the effort and the commitment. In the first half, we scored a good goal, and then we played it a bit conservatively for my liking. I did not think we were as positive as we could be. The second half was a bit better, but there was a lot of players having their first start, and we were never going to get the same fluency. So, Travis, what do you make of Ange's comments there? Do you agree with him? And what do you make of the players that run out of legs, if you like, at the end?
I've never really heard Ange say a bad comment, to be fair. He's a very positive thinking manager compared to what we've had in the past. But of course, players that aren't getting many minutes, of course, are going to become leggy. But I think Sarr, Papa Mata Sarr, I think he's been absolutely outstanding since the start of the season, and I'm really glad he's getting some more minutes behind him, because I think he could be. I mean, he's only still young. What is he? 19, 20, something like that, and he's still really young.
Yeah.
I think he could be some player in the next coming seasons. But that's all I can say, really. But with the injuries we've got to what we've got on the bench, half of our bench haven't had any proper game time. So we are going to struggle. I hate to say it, but we are going to struggle unless Levy pulls the rabbit out the hat again in the transfer window and does something really special. But can I see that happening? Not really.
We can only hope, but let's have faith. Papa Mata Sarr is 21 years old. Just had a look myself. I wasn't quite sure. But let's be clear about Papa Mata Sarr. He is way ahead of where he should be. at his age. You know, we're talking about someone who's thrown in when the club really struggled last season in the North London derby. We all know pretty much the biggest game of the season. You know, at home, he was also thrown in at the San Siro. Not many, tougher places to go than that. And I thought he was absolutely superb. And again, this season, I think, he's shown the qualities he got. And you look at him and you go, we've got a real talent on our hands, and this could be a top midfielder. And I think if he's used in the right way, Travis, I think you said being rested, that is obviously really important with a young player as well. But I think he has a lot of talent. So let's hope that is the case. Nige, coming to you, what do you make of those comments from Ange post-match? Do you look too much into it, etc.? And what do you make of him saying we kind of ran out of legs, etc., and we were too conservative for his liking?
Yeah, again with the personnel, it's difficult to disagree, really, isn't it? I mean, like I say, Dyer and Davis have hardly played all season, so they were always going to run out of steam towards the end. Højbjerg, the same, was a lot of substitute appearances. So yeah, I wasn't entirely surprised. And yeah, I couldn't really agree more with what he said.
Okay. Fair enough. And I think he's always, like Travis says, a positively minded manager after the game. Like, he's kind of almost criticising the way we approached after the first goal, but also recognises the effort and how hard it was with the lack of personnel. So I like that about him. So there's someone who throws the players under the bus, no names being mentioned there. But I want to go around the houses and ask your man of the match. I want to know why it can be a Wolves or a Tottenham player. So Wynnie, coming to you first, your man of the match and why?
My man of the match was Ben Davies, for someone who hasn't had many minutes at all to come in, and I think he was just at the heart of everything we almost did just set up this block on the edge of our box and just tried to just get rid of everything that came our way, and everything that we managed to kind of get rid of up until the 92nd minute came through Ben Davies. He's been a very, very good servant for our club. He's never been one of these players that's outstanding. People in the Premier League wouldn't look at him and go, years ago, look at him and go, oh my God, like Ben Davies is such a quality fullback. But he's been consistent, I think. And I think, we tried him as an inverted fullback, which failed miserably because, I could have told you he's not an inverted fullback. But as a centre-back, that's where he plays. That's where he plays for Wales, and he's played consistently for Wales. Obviously with his mate Joe Rodon as well. So, look, he's someone who, for me, came in when we needed him, and we could count on him. And he, in my opinion, had a fantastic game. So, my man of the match was Ben Davies.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, caption to say that Sarr is very good and versatile. Absolutely. Travis, your player of the match and why?
That's a really good comment there that Captain Grandma has made. Sarr is good and versatile. That I reckon he's better for a fit left back when Udogie and Emerson are out. That's a really good comment there. I like that because Pat met Sarr. He's not afraid to get himself stuck in and going for challenges. He's not a dirty player. He won't go in with studs showing. And I think every tackle that he makes is fair, and he's very calm as well. He reminds me of Moussa Dembele in a few ways, not every way, because obviously Moussa Dembele was obviously one of the best midfielders Tottenham Hotspur have ever had. But yeah, that's a pretty good shout. To be fair, he probably would be good as a left back. So, but for me, man of the match, I'm going to have to strongly agree with Wynnie. Ben Davies, really, really, really good.
Okay, we've got two Tottenham players. Love it. Thank you very much. Davies was given a lot of credit after that performance. As someone who hasn't had a lot of minutes under his belt under Ange, I thought he'd done okay. Nige, coming to you, your player of the match, please, and why?
It has to be Eric Dyer, right? No, Ben Davies all day long. Fantastic. Like when he says, he very rarely lets us down. Always a solid 6 or 7 out of 10. He's never gonna. A lot of fans don't like him, but every club needs a Ben Davies.
Yeah, Absolutely agree. Every club does need Ben Davies, and I think even if we're going to be in Europe next season, we need that squad depth, someone who can play in multiple positions and deliver basically, and do it well. We saw Davies come off the bench for Man United, although he was kind of playing that inverted fullback role. He was playing really high up the pitch and looked dangerous. So I think as far as we're concerned, we need to keep Davies in and around the squad. Players like Davies and Richarlison that can play multiple positions, whatever you think of them, I think are very, very handy if we want to, when we're in Europe, want to progress and have that squad depth. A question that I asked Luke to ask on Park Lane podcast yesterday, I'm going to ask as well, and that is where we will be come Christmas, so 25th of December. So Travis, come to you first. Where do you think we'll be in the table come Christmas?
That's a really difficult question. You don't give many difficult questions, to be fair, Harry. So I'm gonna go between 4th and 5th. I'm gonna be realistic with the way the squad is at the moment. I'll eat my words if we're not. There's many reasons why I think we will be. There's many reasons why I don't think we will be. But in between 4th and 5th.
I think we'll take that. We can get through, and for me, the top 6 until January. I'll be absolutely delighted because it means the season's still alive. We're in European places with, not being funny, a pretty, not poor squad, but definitely without our major talents. What do you say? I don't ask hard questions. Right, you'll get an hard question at the end, no doubt about that. You've really set yourself up very nicely there. I'm going to have to put together a hard question for you at the end, but leave that with me. Nige, where will we be come Christmas Day?
I think we will be where I think we will probably finish, and that's probably around 6th.
Okay.
I'm hoping for better, but I said 6th start of the season. So I think, around 6th. With the injuries we got, 6th, but hoping for better.
Eric Dyer.
Absolutely. Yeah, we obviously want better, but at the same time, we've got to be realistic. Wynnie, for people who didn't listen to Park Lane podcast yesterday, where do you think we'll be around that Christmas period?
Yeah, I said 6th yesterday, and I think that's where I think that's where we'll be. I think we've gained enough points to kind of keep us up there. And let's not forget, Udogie's obviously out he was out for one game. He's back now against Villa. Romero will be back after Man City, so we've got 2 more games to suffer, and then Romero. So we'll have a little bit more stability at the back. A little bit of, we say leadership. Obviously, that's up for debate with Romero currently, but I still think he gives some leadership and some experience at the back. I think we've gained enough points to keep ourselves up there, because I don't think we're going to lose every game now until Christmas, because we're just not. It's not going to happen. I think we'll pick up some points probably when we least expect it. We may suffer a couple of heavy defeats along the way, but I think we'll still be sitting around 6th spot, which gives us a good position then when all of our players come back in January, hopefully, to then push on and maybe get into the top 4.
That's the aim. Top 4 will be a very good season. We're the first year under Ange Postecoglou, the start of the project. People have to be realistic, and I know it's hard. We've had a great start. I was there myself, loving it when we were top of the league. Had the opportunity, Palace, and we went 5 points clear. It was great, but I think we can all kind of agree that it was never going to last. We knew that that there'd be injuries along the way, difficult games. We looked at our period, especially towards the end of the season, looking at our period upcoming now. So I think we've got to be realistic. Top 4 will still be an absolutely excellent season. All calls for celebrations. Thinking about the Aston Villa game, which is very hard because at the moment we're in an international break and it's just under 2 weeks' time. But I do want to briefly touch on that. So, Nige, coming to you first. How are you feeling right now ahead of the game? And I want to know, if nobody comes back from injury, obviously Udogie comes back from suspension, what your team would look like?
How I'm feeling right now is concerned. Villa are top team, probably better at home than away, but I don't think the team's going to look a lot different, sadly. I wouldn't surprise me if it was pretty much the same side that played Saturday, maybe Lo Celso, maybe Phillips. Other than that, I think it will be pretty much the same. But I'm concerned, but I think Villa are beatable at home. I'd be confident in beating anyone at home.
Fair enough. I think that going to obviously Villa Park will be a lot tougher. But like you said, I think, Villa playing away from home, I think we'll have more of a chance of that. Wynnie, coming to you next. How are you feeling right now? Honest opinion about the Villa game. And what would your kind of lineup look like? Because obviously Doki's back, right? Assuming he gets into your team if he's fit. And who comes in for the suspended East Basuma?
Yeah, I think I am slightly concerned, but at the same time, I'm a little bit relaxed because obviously Villa look very, very good at the moment. They're playing some really good football. But as you say, their home record is incredible, but their away record is not. So it's a team that clearly doesn't travel as well away from home. But look, they're still a very, 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 very tough team to beat. But I'd like to think our home record and home performances can see us through that. But I would see Udogie come straight back in left back without a shadow of a doubt. I would also like to see Phillips come in, but I don't think Andrew's going to do it. I think Andrew will go back with Davis and Dyer. And for me, I would probably put Bentancur in for Basuma. I think, look, he's had a very long layoff and we need to be careful with him. But he's now obviously going away with Uruguay for the international break to hopefully, that's another thing that's up for debate. Everyone's kicking off about that. Look, he needs minutes. He needs minutes. It's as simple as that. And I know obviously the South American games can get feisty and stuff like that. But look, he needs minutes. He needs some game time. And if he can get some, then that's great. And then hopefully he'll come out of that unscathed and he can come straight into the side against Villa. So Udogie straight back in and Bentancur for Basuma for me. And also Phillips, but I don't think that will happen.
Okay, thank you very much. Travis, how do you feel about the Villa game in less than 2 weeks' time, obviously at home? And talk to me what your lineup would look like in terms of replacement for Basuma. Would Udogie come back in? Would you start Phillips? Talk me through it.
Yeah, I think we're going to struggle. I mean, Ollie Watkins is scoring goals for fun at the moment. He's an informed striker, one of the best strikers in the league at the moment. So yeah, obviously, I think Udogie will inevitably come back in anyway because obviously he's the number one left back for the team. But again, he's probably going to go with Dyer and Davis. But I would, because the thing with, and I am going to get onto the subject about Eric Dyer here, but I have a perfectly good reason why I am going to talk about him. There's been a lot of nasty comments from Eric Dyer that I've seen through social media. He's been laughing about the club. He's made niggly comments here and there to different people. So I think Ashley Phillips, we bought him for a reason, and I don't think he should be sitting on the bench. He's obviously the number one defender. Was it Blackburn he come from? Was it Blackburn Rovers?
Yeah, Blackburn Rovers, yeah.
So if I was Ange, and I know Ange is a very humble man, but I would absolutely start Ashley Phillips over Eric Dyer. I can understand why he's chosen Eric Dyer, and I will sing his praises a bit because he is obviously the more what's the words? The more superior defender, maybe
professional,
experienced. Yeah, that hurts when I say that. It really does. But he is, But I will obviously agree with what Wynnie has said there and give Ashley Phillips a run and see obviously what he's all about. That's all we can do really. So yeah. But yeah, Eric Dyer will be a Tottenham player for who knows how long for, but till that day comes, he's a Tottenham player.
Just to clarify, Eric Dyer is your favourite Tottenham player, though, right?
we're on a live podcast, so I need to be really careful with what I say. But
yeah, let's not go there. Let's talk about it after. Oh, I love it. So another question. Travis asked the tough questions. Let's chuck it in there. I'm going to make it even more mean now. Thanks, Travis. You can blame him. How many points do we get for our next 4 Premier League fixtures after the international break? I'm going to go around the houses and ask you one by one. I don't want why, I just want the number. A reminder for people who don't know, our next 4 fixtures as follows. These are tough, by the way. Aston Villa at home, Manchester City away, West Ham at home, and Newcastle United at home. Nige, just a number, please. How many points will we be getting from those 4 games?
5.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the more realistic option. Travis, you asked the tough questions. Try answering this.
3.
Oh, negative. Love the positivity from Barney. 7. I'd absolutely take that. Scruff of the neck. Wynnie.
6.
6. Yeah, realistic. I'm looking here. What do I think we're going to get? I think we'll lose to City away. I think we'll beat Villa at home. I think we'll beat Newcastle at home at 6 points. West Ham, probably a draw. So probably around about 7 for me. I agree, absolutely agree with Barney. So let me know in the comments below, guys, before we move on, how many do you think we're going to get? Barney says 7 and Jay says 6. Any more, let me know in the comments below and we will come back to it. But before we get on to the questions that people put forward for the podcast on Twitter this morning to end the show, I do want to quickly go over the January transfer window because we mentioned injuries and suspensions, but now we want to come up with solutions. So Wynnie, coming to you next, how important is the January transfer window and how many players do we need?
I mean, a couple of weeks. The thing is, the answer's changed. A couple of weeks ago, I don't think January was that significant. But it's absolutely huge now. We're missing, obviously, Van der Ven will be out until that period, as will James Maddison. So, look, I think I will say we definitely need a centre back. That's a fact. Maybe get 2 while we're there. You know, you never know. That's not going to happen, is it? Let's be honest. But definitely a centre back. And do you know what? Like, I've heard rumours now that Saudi want Richarlison. Now, as much as I like Richarlison for what he brings in terms of his passion, his work rate, and and everything that goes with it, I don't think his ability matches that. So if Saudi want to come in with a ridiculous 67 million pound bid,
what price would you sell Richarlison for any club if you had to set a price limit?
I wouldn't want to lose much money. So I would say, look, what did we pay for him? Was it 60 million, something like that?
Well, it was basically 50 with 10 million add-ons, but no disrespect to Richarlison, but I don't think those add-ons apply.
No. So look, I would take a straight 50 million. We're not, let's say some of those add-ons become active. I'll take a little bit of a loss on that. And let's be honest, Saudi seem to just throw money, crazy money.
Saudi Arabia would pay 50 million for Richarlison. So I can absolutely,
if not more. So look, if they want to come in January, I would honestly, hand on my heart now, I'd let him go and maybe reinvest that money again on someone else, maybe another winger or a striker, but 100% a centre back, and then maybe see how we sit, because we could get some more injuries. We don't know.
Yeah, fair enough. Nige, January important, not important, and how many players do we need?
Again, yeah, the same. A couple of weeks ago, or even a week ago, I would have said January, maybe 1, 2 at a push. Now I'm thinking we need 3 or 4. Definitely a centre half, striker, left winger, maybe someone in a Maddison role. Yeah, we got so many holes to fill now. But I think realistically, if we could get 2 or 3 in, that would be good. But I just can't see us spending money. I think there'd be either free transfers or loans.
Yeah, fair enough. For me, it'd be probably, because I like to obviously be realistic, probably 2 players, but the recruitment have to be right. For me, recruitment's over investment, and we've seen that with the money wasted on the Ndombele's. So some will say Richarlison. I'll leave that up to you as well. So that's really important for me, and that would be a centre back, a really solid third centre back. We've got the likes of Tosin Adebayo still out there, and obviously he's going through that injury process with Fulham. But once he's finished with that, I think he'll be ready to go to be a really strong third centre back, and obviously step in for Van der Ven until he's available. And a left back for me, because I love Davies, etc. Sessegnon, I think the club need to help him get through that injury phase, and then whether it's January or the summer, sell him, because I think not being funny, I can't see him fitting into the Spurs team. Perisic, will he kick a ball again for Spurs? Debatable. And like I said, Davies, just like Wynnie, you say, doesn't suit that inverted left back role. I think keep him around the squad, but doesn't suit that in particular role. So as far as I'm concerned, a left back would be great, but for me, the priority is bringing in a centre back of top quality for that competition as well. The likes of Romero, to keep a cool, calm head, like we discussed yesterday, and just to, because I think every player's got to earn their place in this team. I think you've got to set that right example. The last thing, actually, before we get on to the questions that people put forward for the podcast, I want to discuss David Ornstein's article. I don't know if any of you saw it, but it's basically claiming the Spurs haven't got a lot of money for January. So, Travis, do you believe David Ornstein? And for you, if you had to choose anyone who was the most reliable for Spurs news, who's your go-to person?
I think David Ornstein needs to wake up. Tottenham Hotspur are the 10th richest club in the world, so I don't really know where he's got that bit of information from. Obviously, i.e. being Joe Lewis. We've got a lot of money. It's just we've got even more. Obviously, Daniel Levy being in charge. But my go-to for Spurs news would be Fabrizio Romano. He's absolutely spot on and very good with all his transfer news, really. He's probably the most reliable source on social media, in my opinion. But David Ornstein, I don't know where he's got that information from. I mean, he obviously knows something that we don't. We've just got 100 million for Harry Kane. And obviously, Daniel Levy is an investor anyway. So as a club, financially, without the football, he's sitting quite positively, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not claiming that David Ornstein's lied or anything, because I think some of his reporting on football transfers is excellent, etc. But it's funny that within 24 hours after we lost that Chelsea game, that article was out. For me, it's something that was prepared to... Because obviously, you've got to remember, I'm not... journalists' aim is to get the clicks, the views, the people to read their article. But for me, it just seemed to coincidence how quickly it came out after that catastrophe of Monday night, 7 days ago, is that today.
But Harry, sorry. Can I say one thing to interrupt? There is always doom and gloom over Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, whether you're Jamie Carragher, Gary Neville, or the bloke that used to play for Arsenal. I can't remember his name now. It's always a pundit on Sky Sports or won the football games. I can't remember his name now. Paul Merson, number one.
Do you listen to Paul Merson? The beat's funny. Do you listen to anything that comes out of his mouth?
Well, if he's a pundit on Monday Night Football or on the weekend, you've got no choice to sit there and listen to the absolute tosh that comes out of his mouth. But he loves to slaughter Tottenham. And when we played Chelsea, they were showing highlights of Harry Kane playing for Bayern Munich. Well, when Man City play, how many highlights do we see of Erling Haaland playing for Borussia Dortmund? You don't. And I think there's so much that they've got so much negativity to say about Tottenham as a club. They will literally say anything that they want to get that reaction from Tottenham supporters.
Joe, sitting here right now, I can't disagree with you. I cannot disagree with you. I think there's a lot of people who go out their way for that reaction. But moving on, Wynnie, I want to know your thoughts on that article. We briefly discussed it yesterday, but I want to go more in depth. Why now has this come out? When Spurs fans start asking the question, and can you understand it?
No, the timing of it is typical journalist, isn't it? Look, there's a bit of doom and gloom. Spurs have been flying high. All of a sudden, there's a bit of a downward spiral. Oh, I know. I'll post this now, saying they've got no money. Look, it's good timing for him to get clicks, and he is usually quite good in terms of he's normally the first to report some of the big deals if Fabrizio hasn't already reported them, and obviously we know he's heavily influenced with Arsenal, so look, I don't really trust him with Tottenham news in particular unless he's breaking a transfer that we maybe already potentially know about or something like that. So I believe we do have money, of course we do. It's just whether we spend it or not, and it has to be, in my opinion, it has to be the right deal as well. It can't just be, throwing out too much money for no reason, which we've seen Spurs do in the past. My go-to for news, I use Paul O'Keefe quite a lot. And obviously Alistair Gold is another one, but no disrespect to Alistair Gold. I think he sometimes can come across as a bit of a mouthpiece for the club. I think sometimes the club feed him some information to try and cool situations down and he reports it. I'm not saying he does it all the time, but I feel like he's the person that the club may use as a mouthpiece. Whereas I think Paul O'Keefe is just a bit of an insider in the club. and has, you know, some little breaking news things that people kind of look for and follow. But they're my two that I kind of, if they say it, then I kind of believe it.
Fair enough, fair enough. I think there's a lot of aggregator accounts going around at the moment. You've got to bear that in mind. People who look for that reaction don't get it personally, but there is that, and that is going to be more of it to come as well. Nige, yeah, talk to me kind of through, you know, Alstein's article. I don't know if you've read it yourself, but do you believe it? Why now? Do you understand it as well, considering the money we generate from the stadium? We were told it was a game changer.
For me, I'd start with definitely Paul O'Keefe. Whenever he tweets, I believe it. But for me, isn't it more about the FFP? It's not necessarily about how much money we have. It's how much we're allowed to spend. Because I know we sold Kane for 100 million. We've got like 80 million or whatever for him. But because apart from him, we haven't really sold anyone, yet we brought a lot of players in. I think it's more about how much we're allowed to spend in January as to how much money we have. But and again, I don't think it's about how much money we spend. It's just getting the right player in. So I don't think we have to spend loads as long as we can scout the right players. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we should be okay. Yeah, but again, I don't think it's necessarily about how much money we have to spend. It's how much we're allowed to spend.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Yeah, so it's interesting that article for me. It's the timing that it's come out as a coincidence. But for me, I understand what you're saying with financial fair play, Nige. But for me, you know, the money we should have generated from concerts, I know there hasn't been enough. It should eventually, maybe not yet, but help with FFP. But we're guests to see. But now moving on to the questions that people put forward for the podcast on Twitter. I actually want to start with one on the chat with YouTube because I think it's a really good one. I can't make my mind up here. Wynnie, who is the more ludicrous pundit, Paul Merson or Rory Jennings?
Rory Jennings all day long for me. Paul Merson obviously likes to have a dig at Spurs, as he will do being ex-Arsenal. But for me, Rory Jennings just doesn't make all the crap that he talks, that it doesn't even make sense. Do you know what I mean? Like, at least Paul Merson said, you know, Chelsea are going to beat Spurs. Okay, fair enough. Like, that's an easy comment to make. Anyone can say that.
Paul Merson's bearable, and I like what he's done around mental health, etc., and been very open with talking. So, putting football aside, I think Paul Merson's is a great guy, and I can see why he's on Sky, etc. But Rory Jennings, I think he just says things for the sake of it, and
100%. He says things for clicks.
Did you believe that Ange didn't deserve Manager of the Month? You know, in October, did he really believe that? The only manager to win all his games? I don't think he believes that. No. He's boring. He's repetitive. He's on repeat. For me, no, not at all. But moving on to the questions that people put forward on Twitter. Travis, I'm going to put the next question for you. Let's hope there's going to be a hard question in here for you because you've asked for it. Let's face it. This one from Southview Coy's great channel. Go check them out. Saying, with Lo Celso not starting, is this end of his time at Spurs, do you think? Do you think he'll be sold?
I don't think Lo Celso has ever really been given a chance as such. And obviously, he hit the road running at Real Betis, I want to say. Was he Real Betis did he come from?
Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously he had a good time out there. But yeah, to be fair, he probably is past his sell-by date now. Obviously, he went on loan to... Who did he go on loan to?
Villarreal, was it?
Yeah, Villarreal, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Didn't really see much of him there, really. Not that I watch Spanish football, really, but I think if he was as good as what we wanted him to be, I think Villarreal would have been all over him. It's the same with Ndombele. You know, he went to Galatasaray. They now want to cancel his or write off his contract, you know. So I think they were both panic buys. So yeah, I think Lo Celso should be sold really. Let's face it, he's not going to get in front of James Maddison, is he? And he plays near enough the same position. So yeah,
not a chance getting it, in front of James Maddison. No disrespect. I think Lo Celso, he goes to a smaller Premier League club. I think he can get some good first team minutes if he wants to stick around this league. Maybe go back to Spain. I don't know. I think he has the skill. I just can't see it working out for Tottenham. I haven't seen what others have seen, but I'd love him to prove me wrong, especially in a Spurs shirt. But Nige, good question from Barney, who I know is sticking around in the chat. So listen to this reply, Barney. Barney says, what is the priority now for Spurs in the January transfer window? Also, would you expect Ange will go out to progress in this year's FA Cup and take it seriously?
Yeah, as I said earlier, I think centre half definitely is 100% what we need in January. And yeah, I don't see why we shouldn't go for the FA Cup. If we can it all depends on the draw, right? If we get a good draw, then anyone can win the cup. So yeah, I'd really want us to go for a cup. It's been far too long since we've won a trophy. So yeah, 100% going for the FA Cup this year.
Yeah, absolutely. That's where the squad depth comes in as well, as how important it will be in January. Wynnie, I give the next question for you. Chris says, hey, Harry, question from me. How do we get the creativity in the team without Maddison, as we looked lost in that respect on Saturday? I asked you this question because you commented, didn't you, as well, on the lack of creativity against Wolves?
Yeah. Do you know what? I don't see why we don't. Let's chuck Lo Celso in there. If Lo Celso is supposed to be James Maddison's replacement when he's not there, why not stick him in there? That's the whole point. So
Yeah,
I think Lo Celso, it's weird because obviously teams have seen something in him and we've seen something in him to buy him in the first place. And I know sometimes players don't work out as you first intend, but I just don't think he's really been given, a fair crack of the whip. I think I thought he had a decent, very small, but a decent little cameo when he came on against Wolves. He obviously had a shot, nearly scored. It was a decent save from the keeper. So for me, I think our creativity. I don't believe in sticking Decky in the number 10 role or where Maddison was. I don't think he's that type of creative player. So I think our only choice probably is Lo Celso, or obviously we've said Donnelly in the under 21s. He's someone who is we've seen. If you look on football Twitter, you would have seen a lot of videos of him. His creativity, he scores goals. It's a position where you can't really go wrong if you stick someone in there and they don't have a great game, because it doesn't really have an effect on the team in terms of we're not going to concede loads of goals because of it. We're just not going to create many chances, and we didn't against Wolves anyway. So what's the point? You might as well stick someone give Donnelly a chance.
Absolutely. And what worries me is I think the gap between the academy and first team, especially last season, but I still think it's a really big. I think this has proven that Donnelly is absolutely ripping everything we see, not being funny. Spurs make a big thing of it, and they're right to do so on the socials of Donnelly. He's always scoring, always fabulous moves, and you see it in training, etc. But he's still not in, even though we've got what I would call right now, every club has it, I know. We're having our own of the season, probably our worst injury crisis that we're going to get all season, probably. I hope that's the case. Probably just jinx it there. But you can't even get into the squad, let alone the team. And for me, that's worrying. That is very worrying, that gap. But yeah, it should at least be named on the bench for me. Comment live on YouTube from Grandma, who says Lo Celso has been good everywhere, including Argentina, but except Spurs. Now, why would that be? Unai Emery wanted him. Just give him a chance. Fair enough. Good chance to give him an opportunity, I suppose, with the injuries. Travis, I'm going to ask you the next question from Chris. Again, big up Chris Phillips. If you are listening, go check out his channel, Let's Talk Tottenham. Chris says, will the international break help our bad form and also be bad for Villa's momentum? Before our game, because it's 2 weeks' time?
No. I don't think it will, because Villa are going to be up for it anyway. They're an informed club. We go to the international break, but it's not going to bring our injury crisis down, and it's not going to bring the players that we need back. So I think obviously now, the teams have seen what sort of crisis we're in with our defence. I think any team we play are going to want to go for it. Especially Villa, obviously, that they're competing for the Champions League, and I do believe they will get Champions League football this season with the way they're playing. So yeah, I don't think it's going to improve anything as a club. Obviously, it'll give the players a rest, but you know, in a positive aspect, it gives more time for players to train.
I completely agree with you. Question though, Travis, where is your positivity gone? Because when I wasn't hosting the show and Carl was for me, I was informed that you sat here on this podcast and said we're going to win the league, right? What's happened?
Yes, that is absolutely true. But I think someone did compare us to the Arsenal Invincibles as well at one point, which I think is a step above to what I was saying. That obviously wasn't mentioned. If you are listening, then I do apologise. But obviously that was mentioned, and it was with full confidence as well.
Fair enough. I love the honesty. I got informed of it, and I didn't believe it. So I had to go back and look for myself. I found you that they were going to win the league.
I still believe it though, and I will still stick with that. You know, somewhere in that brain of mine, I still have that illusion. That's all it's going to be.
I love the confidence though, and I love the honesty to sit here and admit you said that as well. That's me. I'll be trying to hide that. So well done. That's all I can say. Nige, love it. Byron says here, who do you play in midfield versus Aston Villa, and would you trial Kulusevski in the middle in Maddison's position?
No. I keep Kulu out wide right, or maybe try him wide left. Midfield, I'd have to go with Bentancur, Sarr, and Højbjerg, I guess. Yeah, I think that's probably all we've really got to choose from, unless we would have put Skip in, which, no, yeah. So Bentancur, Højbjerg, and Sarr.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Thank you. Wynnie, coming to you. Question from Ben from Bateman Talks Tottenham. Good friend of mine, great channel. Big up, Ben, if you are listening after, which I'm sure you will. He says, how do we solve the loss of Maddison's creativity? It's been discussed a lot. So, Wynnie, if you were the manager for Tottenham Hotspur, you're Ange Postecoglou's shoes, what would you do against Aston Villa to solve this creativity issue?
Jesus Christ! I mean, if I knew the actual answer to this, I wouldn't be doing my normal day job. I'm not going to say a tactical change, because I think our tactics have worked. It's just the personnel now that's the problem. Look, like I said, I would put all of my faith and my trust in Lo Celso, and I know that's a big ask, because I'm not sure whether we trusted on it. You know, we've lent on him too much, but he's a player who's meant to be Maddison's replacement. So if he's Maddison's replacement, why is he not in the team? So I'm not going to say he's going to solve our creativity problems, but he is someone who I would look to against Villa. So pretty much, kind of echoing what Nige said, I would have Sarr, I'd have Bentancur, but I would, instead of Højbjerg, I'd stick Lo Celso in there to be our Maddison, and have Bentancur to kind of maybe take up that Basuma role and just let Sarr roam around the midfield. So I would also, moving on from that a little bit, I would also put Donnelly on the bench. I'd have him there, and I'd give him his first minutes of the season, 100%. When Lo Celso is flagging, because obviously he hasn't played too many minutes either, when he's flagging 60th minute, get him on, give him half an hour, give him a taste of Premier League football. And let's see if he can live up to his hype, which he's got at the minute.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so that's what I'd do.
For me, I would go with Bentancur, Højbjerg, and Sarr midfield, but I'd leave Donnelly on the bench. You'll know I'm not the biggest fan of Lo Celso. I'd love him to prove me wrong. I don't know. I don't have anything against him personally. I just don't see what he brings, and I watched him Argentina, and that people thought he's great. When you look at a player and you go, "What's all the fuss about?" Like, and you see some done that with Haaland and were proved wrong, etc. I'd love to be proved wrong, but I just personally don't see it. But absolutely, Donnelly should at very least be named in the matchday squad, ideally. The bench, Travis. Next question for you from Ray. This really got me thinking. this afternoon. And that was in a world where we have no injuries or suspensions. So everyone is available for selection by their country on an international break. You can only choose one player who is not allowed to go on international duty this break. Who do you pick and why? Wow.
That's a really good question.
Wow.
That's a really good question. But you know what? I've got an answer.
Oh.
James Maddison.
Fair enough. I can understand where you've gone for that, but look who's in charge of England. Not been funny. Gareth Southgate. Doesn't play him in the right position. He won't get many minutes for me. And even Van der Ven, I don't think he's going to play a lot. So it'd probably be, I don't know, someone like Son, who works really hard for South Korea for me. But it's a great question. It's certainly got me thinking, that's for sure. Nige, you're going to give the last question to you from Craig. We got Craig. Craig says, who would you like us to add to the squad in January if you could name an individual or individuals? Nige.
That's a good question. I don't know. A centre half. But, I mean, if I could have my pick of any, it would be Tapsoba. But it's probably going to be a toss-in. Yeah, for me, Tapsoba. He'd be the one.
Okay. Thank you very much. We were linked with him and some of them Van der Ven. Some people wanted both. I definitely think we went with a better option, but we needed a strong third centre back. So let the discussions begin, I suppose. But that kind of wraps us up nicely for today's show. A little bit over time, but we don't mind here. It was a really, really good one for every session, maybe. But I think we all recognise that there's still a lot to look forward to the season. It's not quite meltdown crisis just yet. But yeah, thank you very much, guys. So thank you very much to the wonderful guests here. 3 wonderful guests. Wynnie, where can people find you and talk to me about our wonderful Park Lane podcast?
Yeah, obviously co-host over on Park Lane Pod every Sunday at 7 p.m. Yeah, obviously, first of all, thanks for having me on your show, obviously. But yeah, so obviously, if you're listening to this and you're not subscribed to Harry's channel, why not go ahead and do that straight away? Obviously, come and then, following on from that, come over and check us on at Park Lane Pod. And if you're not subscribed to that, do that as well. But yeah, thank you for having me on, mate. And obviously, I'm the admin for the Park Lane podcast Twitter. So if you see any wacky tweets come out, it's more than likely me. So yeah, feel free to interact if you ever do. And obviously, it's nice to meet you guys on here as well.
Absolute pleasure to have you on, Wynnie. Did we get a Monday controversial tweet from you?
It was the who will finish higher. In fact, actually, let me just quickly, while we're here, let me chuck this out to Nige and Travis. Who finishes higher this season, Tottenham or Chelsea, and why?
Oof. Travis, do you want to go first?
I'm going to say Spurs. Because I think Chelsea are going through a good form at the moment. Obviously, they got their point against City yesterday. But with the way Chelsea have been, they're not consistent enough. I think they're going to have a massive dip, and I think they're going to finish probably bottom half of the table. So
really,
yeah, I do. Yeah,
I like that answer.
This isn't a biased answer, by the way. This is my honest answer.
Yeah,
but I think with the difference between Poch and Ange, there's a huge difference in lots of ways. So yeah, Tottenham are going to finish above Chelsea.
Nice. What about yourself, Nige?
I think it will be slightly closer. I think between now and Christmas, Chelsea will catch us. But I think New Year, players back, few new signings, and Spurs will just a couple of places maybe above Chelsea.
Love it.
Thank you very much. So there you go. Don't forget to check out the wonderful Park Lane podcast. Obviously, I'm the best co-host, but Wynnie's contribution is greatly appreciated. But no, it's a great podcast every Sunday, 7 p.m. So go check it out if you want to come on as well. Drop one of us a DM. That's Luke, Dave, Wynnie, or me. Nige, thank you very much for coming on your first time on the show. Considering the microphone problems that you've had, I think we got through it very well in the end. So where can people find you?
Yeah, cheers, mate. I am on TikTok, Nige at Pure Coys, and on YouTube, Nige at Pure Coys as well. And yeah, thank you for having me on. Sorry I've had to keep pressing the mic every time, so I've not really said too much, but I've got my point across and then had to put my mic button on again. So thank you for having me.
No worries at all. I was a bit concerned to start with because obviously Nigel talking, I was talking, I could hear myself twice. Personally hearing myself once.
Nobody needs that.
Nobody needs that. Nobody needs that on a Monday evening. Definitely not after an early Monday morning start. But no, we got for it. So thank you very much, Nige. Travis, late call up because someone dropped out last minute in Davina. So thank you very much for coming on. Always pretty much a regular on the show now, right? So firstly, how does that feel? And where can people find you?
Yeah, absolutely amazing. I absolutely love being a part of your podcasts every Monday night, 8 p.m. Harry, you have some fantastic guests. An absolute pleasure to meet you, Wynnie and Nige. Again, fantastic people to have on the show yet again. I just want to say, and I say this every time, but Harry, what you do for neurodiversity and autism, I see it every day on Twitter. What you and Barney both post is absolutely extraordinary. And guys, if anyone is listening and you feel you need to reach out, talk, tweet about mental health, autism, or anything along them lines, then please do. I am a mental health first aider for the company that I work for, so my DMs are always open. My Twitter is always free. So if you ever need to talk to myself or Harry or Barney is absolutely fantastic as well. Then please do. It's so important to talk. Whether it's on the podcast or on Twitter to the right people. You deserve every bit of recognition you get. So well done.
Oh, thank you. That's really greatly appreciated. Absolutely spot on around mental health awareness. We obviously always make time on the podcast for that. If you're struggling, reach out. It's not as easy as it sounds. But yeah, make sure to definitely do that. Nice way to kind of end really. If you want to follow me, you can there. Harry Scarf 22. Got the Football Content Awards up in Liverpool Thursday night. So I'm absolutely delighted to be part of that and looking forward to meet so many amazing people. And very much appreciate to everyone who voted, supported for me. Regardless of the result, I'm absolutely privileged to be there. So can't wait for that. So if you're new to the channel, don't forget to smash the subscribe button because it does help the channel and the show grow. So I do hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for your amazing questions. If you are listening on any other podcast platform, Spotify, Anchor, Amazon Music, Apple Music, wherever you get your podcast platforms, don't forget to give us a follow and 5-star review. And go subscribe to Partner Podcast while you're at it as well. Another excellent podcast, very close to 1K as well. But as we always say on this channel and show, up the Spurs.
Running through my head, Pochettino is dead. I'm loving big and